Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Plain Poem, Vitaly Z, Colton James, BG, Survive the Spin, FE Patriot, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Sea Level Cultist, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twadwazzle, Jason Hornsby, JMels24, Unimento, Iron 26, Endless, Goldimikin, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Hey,
Hello.
got your other thing working today, your screen?
No, it's coming tomorrow. It was ordered yesterday, but you have to order it before midday to get it the following day from Amazon. So it's going to come tomorrow. What I have done today is stripped the rack that it sits on and just made some minor adjustments, cleaned it, things like that. I also had a fault with the new desk that I've been using, so whenever I test a stereo microphone with both lines at once, one of the lines creates a whole load of hiss because it's broken, like the preamplifier is broken in line 1, and now I typically only use line 2, so who cares, right? Well, I care when I'm using a stereo microphone because I need both of them to work. So I got in touch with SSL and they were like, send me a video. So I've made a video with my wife's assistants showing them visually what's wrong with an audio device. As in a light comes on which shouldn't come on. I've sent that off to them. What else have I done? Monitors ordered. Man, it's so hard setting up for this show with one monitor, and it will invariably crash. I just know it will.
Well, I spent the whole night in the emergency room.
Why?
My son apparently has a pneumonia.
How come?
My son has a pneumonia.
Yeah, how's he managed to get pneumonia?
I don't. He said they went to the gym, and they usually wipe off all the bars before they work out. And he said that one particular night they didn't. So I don't know, some sort of freaking infection. But they released him. He got scared. He thought he was like, ammonia. That's how grandma died, my wife's mother. I was like, Josiah, that she was older and she couldn't freaking breathe. She waited too long. I said, he just got, so I don't know, they give them some freaking IV, medicine through the IV, and they give you a prescription and they send you home. So,
Okay, fair enough.
it should be all right.
Hello, people.
Hey, Craig.
Hello, how much did they charge you, Neil?
Thank God he still has insurance. He's 19. I think this is the last year for his insurance. Oh, they would have banged you in the head for that. You kidding me? I thought they were just giving him the works because it's on insurance. So let's give him IV. Let's give him everything. Let's give him a blood test. So I was like, hold on a second. Why are they giving us all of this stuff? She goes, well, let the doctor come in. Doctor came in. She was like, listen, your son has a pneumonia. We have to treat it. I was like, well, she didn't tell me that's what he had. Anyway, yeah, the insurance pays for that, but that's got to be over $1,000 because they took an X-ray, a chest X-ray. That's going to cost.
Neil, does your son ever suffer from croup or asthma?
Are we going into omnivore? Or are we going over a video today?
Neil, someone asked
Hey
you a
Neil,
question.
has your son ever
No, I didn't
suffered
hear.
from croup
Sorry.
or asthma?
I got has my son. Okay.
Sound like Jardo. Is that you, Jardo? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just asking Neil, has his son ever suffered from croup or asthma?
Negative.
You hot mic in Jardo.
Okay. Pneumonia is one of the most misdiagnosed conditions in the history of diagnosis, that's all.
Anybody got anything that they want to do on today's show? Because I am so frazzled and out of sorts.
Instead,
There is,
there's a video posted with McKeegan, and you got the omnivore choice.
or there's a 3-minute video by PT, who was the guy who responded to Brian.
These are all in Master B, right?
PT
Correct.
definitely is. I'm not sure about Dave McKeegan. Is that so, Neil?
I seen triangles there.
Just pick the first one. Triangles. Is that the one? PT video. Is that the one you want to do?
Well, he's someone who's responded to Brian, and by the look of his video, it's very relevant to the topic, and it's only 3 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get that lined up as a maybe. And if Brian joins, can someone let Brian know that we're going to be covering a video that's covering him? Because it makes sense to have Brian here, right? Okay, that's one choice.
Yes.
So what else we got? McKeegan, you say? Where's that?
I thought that was it. I seen triangles, and I thought it was McKeegan. I didn't read the whole thing, so that's the one I was talking about.
Okay. So is that it? So we've just got the one to pick from?
Wasn't there 3 things?
No. The Omni server, I'm not going to do it. I just can't cope mentally with this much stuff. Well, it's not even mentally. I haven't got enough pixel space to put everything. So like now, where the hell is that window to let in refracted? There we go. It's just too much. So I'll do, although I think he's already, let's just check. Last time I clicked on the link, it either suggested that the invitation link was out of date or it banned me preemptively. It's got their mic wide open. It's the thing, you see. I can't keep an eye on who's doing that. So that noob. I've got a lot on, mate. Please, can you just frickin' mute? Please, thank you. Yeah, running around after people who've got their mics wide open today is going to piss me off really fast, just so you know. But yeah, so that's the second choice, going to Omnivore server. We will do that in time, unless I'm preemptively banned. I can't be bothered to investigate, right? And we haven't got enough time. Then the third one was a Dave McKeegan video, which doesn't seem to be there. So there's only one choice, and it's this PT video if we haven't got a Dave McKeegan video. Now, that's how it is. But if there is a Dave McKeegan video, in case the 3-minute video is...
Neil saw the triangles. Sorry, Neil saw the triangles in PT's video, and assumed it was David Keegan. I did something similar last week when I was referring to Hell's Angles, but when I referred to Angels of Light, but I referred to it as Hell's Angles because of Danny Faulkner.
Right.
It's easily
right.
done.
Well, Danny Faulkner thought a video was going to be about him when I titled it about disgruntled Danny. So I was explaining to my daughter today, I was like, because you don't go to school, you're not afflicted by this constant concern about how you appear to everybody else, because you're not constantly projecting what's going on in your life onto others so you don't have to deal with it as a child. Now, this is obviously slightly complex and took a bit longer than that for her to comprehend. She's 8, right? But this notion that the world does metaphorically revolve around you is something that most people concern themselves with far more than they should or have any right to be doing. Now, I do understand, obviously, people are their own first priority. I get that. But by the same token, people's misapprehensions about how much other people think about them is way out of whack. It's like the amount of concern people put on how much a social group will judge them for any given thing, when in reality they'll give that thing consideration when it's right under their nose for a fraction of a second. They're not really thinking about it that much afterwards. Now, when we talk about people sharing their pain or wanting to project their pain onto me, that's a slightly different thing, right? We're talking about just general normies in general normie society, where you think they might concern themselves with you and what you're doing. They're not. They're concerned with them and what they're doing. People are selfish, yeah? The point being that in the case of Danny and whichever one you want to talk about, let's start with disgruntled and put the focus there. The other Danny, Faulkner, obviously thinks it's going to be a video about him because the world revolves around him, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Nope, nobody's going to even carry on. Why do I even bother? What's the point? Might as well be sat on here on my own. I should be.
Well, he is an author, Nathan, so he does have authority. I'm sure when you're an author, you'll have the same amount of hubris.
Remind me what hubris is.
Arrogance.
Hubris? It's cheeky sod. Right, when arrogance isn't the same as hubris, I'm pretty certain of that. Well, I'm going to have to look up these words because I'm challenging you on something I don't know. Obviously, I don't know the meaning. I've just asked what it means. But I'm pretty certain it's wrong, what you've told me. No, in terms of arrogance, right, my ability to question what's going on and assess it and then make declarations based on my understandings, people perceive that as arrogance. No. Knowing something isn't arrogance, right? You just know something. You're so arrogant. No, just know. I know it's flat. That's not arrogance. When it comes to
confidence.
Yeah, there's another word. It's a different word again, though. I don't like confidence. Confidence implies trickstery and deceit to a certain extent. The confidence scam.
Oh, the con man. That's right. Confidence, con man. So what's the proper word?
Hubris is something that, because of your overconfidence or because of your, your misplaced trust in yourself, you're easy to taunt. You're easy to control. That's hubris.
Yeah, that sounds a lot more like it, which is different to arrogance, right? I was right to say. I'm glad there's someone to back me up because I didn't know how to say that. Thank you, John. Yeah, it is confidence, though. But it seems like a stupid word to use. If something is a statement of absolute fact, beyond all doubt, to suggest that you've got confidence in that statement is a bit wrong. It's like, well, you don't need to be confident about something. It's like when your kid starts the race. I'm confident my child will win the race. She's trained really hard. That's when confidence is required. You don't necessarily know the outcome and you're, enthusiastic for the positive outcome that you would hope for. You're confident you'll get that outcome. Those words kind of go together in that context. But for me, talking about Earth being measured flat, There's no, I don't need to be confident about it. It's an absolute statement of fact.
And Neil.
And Neil.
No.
Did I miss Neil?
Hello.
Oh, I'm really sorry, Neil.
Unbelievable. I tell you, I get no respect.
It's not
First
just
year as
that.
well.
There's stuff overlapping. That's all that is. Your name was covered. And you're incredibly forgettable. No, I'm only joking, Neil. You're supposed to react and go, no, I'm not. You remember me. Remember me, world. No, you're not mentioned in my book.
Listen to me. Have you been asked? Let me ask you a serious question, yes or no. Has anybody asked you to sign a copy of your book when it's completed?
Of course. I've had a bazillion requests for people to sign my book when it's finished.
Okay, and rightly so, because you are the author of the book. But I was asked to sign a copy of your book for someone. That's amazing. I'm a star.
That's not amazing. When a woman asks you to sign her breasts, then I'll be impressed. Like in Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Any evidence of a physical
If I do it at
geometric...
Glastonbury, does it count?
You did that at Glastonbury?
Does it count if I do it at Glastonbury?
You've signed some woman's breasts in the Glastonbury Festival?
Well, they'll be everywhere. I will have to try.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure you'd have to convince that lady to let you. But I mean, yeah, that definitely counts. If that's
So what he's talking about is something like the Mardi Gras that we deal with in New Orleans, where you throw beads and women show their breasts.
No, that's
You're
not.
saying
That's
it's a breast fest?
definitely not. That's not Glastonbury. It's a lovely Christian festival where lots of religious folk all get together and sing and dance. It's amazing and beautiful. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon formerly known as Earth curve.
I got one. Boats go over the horizon.
If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to that horizon could be measured no more than 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's your Earth curve mass that assertion you just made, Neil, is based on. The distance to the horizon in the image we have fondly dubbed the black swan is beyond those physical limitations of a sphere Earth with radius 3959, with the assertion of a horizon physical in nature, measurable at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as laid down in the Begging the Question Proof of Nothing Perspective Hijacking Earth Curve Calculator. Ergo, Earth is not a sphere, and the horizon is not Earth curve. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Wait a second. You're going to tell me one picture and I'm supposed to change my whole worldview?
Yes. It's called a black swan. You only need one if your assertion is that we have always got a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon known as Earth curve, akin to saying we have only got white swans. If all swans are white, then you only need one black swan to show that is not the case. You only need one example where the horizon's beyond its physical limits, if it's ball-shaped, to show it isn't. Black swan. No, the horizon's not Earth curve. No, the Earth is not a sphere. It is a logical consistency known as modus tollens. Could wrap my tongue around it.
I got tons of other pictures that show me the horizon where it's supposed to be. So, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the physical limitation of a sphere edge horizon at 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet as laid down in the Bible of Earth curve suggestions, Earth curve maths. That's where it needs and must be if it's ball-shaped. If it isn't, it isn't. That's the end. It's not like, today we can have a slightly bigger ball. No, it has to have physical limitations that are ball-shaped if it's a ball. If it doesn't have them, it's not a ball. Not today it is, tomorrow it might not be. It does not work like that in physical terms. I'll just say it again. Black swan. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Distance to horizon in the black swan beyond those geometric limitations as denoted by the two oil rigs at 6 and 9 miles, where the horizon should be at 1 mile. Should be, as per Earth curve maths, not should be as in we're supposed to have Earth curve. We just don't, as demonstrated by the black swan. I'm done, go ahead.
Well, I'm just wondering, given 1 mile is a linear distance, what does that have to do with curvature?
That's a different issue. If you assume Earth's a sphere, then you would assume the self-contradictory, self-defeating linear distance in miles and flat Earth surface level with parallel eye level that you'd need to physically measure to then calculate an inferred Earth curve in an orthographic view that you'll never get in reality. But for the fact that we are within their paradigm, when at the start of the modus tollens that will be undone, you suggest that Earth is a sphere with a radius 3959. Therefore, begging the question alongside them. Now, what would we do in 2025 is not beg the question alongside them. That's a 5-year-old argument that debunks Earth curve. Black Swan is our name for that argument. Beyond that, what would I do, or you, moreover, John, you're the originator of this, what would you and I do? Well, we'd point out that to assert that Earth could be a sphere at radius 3959 in an orthographic view that has a physical geometric debunked sphere edge for a horizon marked with an X and labelled horizon in orthographic mathematics, you'll need a surface level to measure your height off. And that surface level axiomatically cannot bend because parallel eye level is required in those maths. So Earth must be flat to infer we've got Earth curve, which we debunked in 2020. Hope that's clear. Thank you for asking, John.
Yeah, it's over with.
Yeah. Moving on. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
You must have just ignored everything we just discussed if you can ask me that question.
No, because the axis requires a plane of reference. So obviously, it's a plane of reference. Is that plane rotating? Who has proof for that?
I don't know.
Oh dear.
Maybe you and your reference planes of reference are ruined, John. I don't know. Is this our claim?
You and your reference frames are ruined, reflected.
Reflected. There's nothing wrong with pointing out that Coriolis is a real effect, but it just requires a plane of reference, non-inertial in nature, to be turning with you a part of it, so you can observe things as you move in that cyclical motion. The things that are not attached to you and your reference frame, Simon, Dan, you clown, are the things that will appear to deflect as a result of you turning underneath them. As they travel in a straight line, your movement on a roundabout, for example, merry-go-round, would be to say that the ball tossed over the top of the roundabout looks like it's curving because you're turning underneath it. That's Coriolis, it's real. Very easy to demonstrate an example with you sat on a roundabout and a ball tossed in a straight line over the top of it. You will see the ball appear to curve when it isn't really curving. It's you turning underneath. That apparent deflection being the Coriolis deflection, or Coriolis drift. Now, Earth is asserted to have this effect. Earth is asserted to have a Coriolis deflection at 15 degrees an hour. What's that you say, Dan? You and your reference frames are ruined, you fucking retard. Well, that's a good way to fuck up your own religion of a globe that's turning, with a reference frame that you spastic, will need. Dan, you clown. Did you want to ask Jaren whether or not you've had any effect on us? No, Dan, what you did was fuck up your own religion of having two reference frames by asking a flat earther whether or not they'd be needed and telling him that they're ruined, with an example that doesn't have two of them. A tractor pulling a man bouncing. This is the kind of retard we deal with, in the form of Dan, who then goes on to ask himself whether or not we're somehow affected. Are we somehow a thorn in his side? You retard, Dan. No! You're nothing more than a noteworthy example of being a spastic. Yeah, that's all you are, Dan. Do you affect us? No, you're assisting us. Yeah, ruining reference frames is quite helpful, Dan. When we point out that Earth as a turning flat plane is supposed to have two of them. For your religion of a ball-shaped flat plane that you'd be asserting if you had two of those reference frames that you suggest are ruined, Dan. Maybe asking Jaren how effective you've been in this community would be better served asked to me, so I can laugh in your face, you retard, about just how ineffectual and ineffective you are in the arena of flat Earth, Simon, Dan. Hopefully someone will trim that and send it to that stupid retard known as Dan.
Nathan, it got, at the end, he even came back to that and asked one more question to Jaren. Does it bother flat earthers that he don't debate?
He does debate. He debated me on Twitter. He's a lying shit stirrer when he says he doesn't debate. Really, Dan, did you not proactively get in touch with me to tell me my reference frame's ruined? Is that not you debating, you spastic retard that's entered in debate on Twitter with me and lost? And has never heard the end of it since? You do debate, Dan. You just lost really quickly to me on Twitter, now X, when you said, quote, you and your reference frames are ruined. Dan, you need two reference frames for your spastic belief in a ball. Okay? This is never going to go away. It's not going to be unsaid. It's not going to be you not debating people when you asked Jaren if it bothers people that you don't debate. Bothers them? I quote your debate with me, you fucking retard. You and your reference frames are ruined isn't something that you didn't say in a non-debate. It's you debating me, you clown, and losing without me even needing to respond. Yeah? That's how useless a turd Dan is in this bowl we call flat Earth. Yeah, Dan, when he entered into a debate with me, lost without even needing me to reply to him. Oh, your reference frames are in, are they? Well done for dismantling your own claim. Not much of a reply I can offer to that, really, other than to quote it ad nausea when Dan lies about not debating. Oh, so where did I get that from, Dan? Was that when we weren't debating about Coriolis and our reference frames are ruined? End quote you to me when you proactively approach me, you lying shit. These fuckers have got to lie. Dan is a deceitful shit, and he will burn for it in hell, in the afterlife. You're a deceitful shit, Dan. You debated me. Yeah? Quote Dan when debating me. You and your reference frames have been ruined. End quote. Simon Dan proactively contacting Nathan to debate reference frames like the fucking retard he is, giving up his own spastic claim with his opening statement. Don't debate. No, you just lose, Dan. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
That's funny how you just changed like that. No, there's no no evidence to the distance to the sun. What is the sun?
I have no idea. I'd love to know, though. This is the thing that scares people. The more time goes by, the more amused I am by the fact that what brings a massive smile to my face and makes me feel 5 years old again, wow, I don't know what the sun is simultaneously terrifying to the majority of people in the Western world. In the civilized world, people are terrified of not knowing what the sun is as a single, perfect, poignant example. Isn't that amusing? Anybody else here scared, and I'm being sincere when I use that word, by not knowing some of the things that we previously thought we knew when we were heliocentrists? Speak now. Talking to
No,
Discord
as a
as well.
matter of fact, I was afraid when I was a heliocentrist that I would get hit with an asteroid.
Yeah, me too. To a certain
I
degree.
used to.
Yeah, John.
Well, I used to. It bothered me when I first figured out that no one knew, because I had so much vested confidence in the authority of that topic. It rattled my belief in all other authorities, and it made me really step back and think about what I did know.
Anybody else? The question on the table for Discord, just so it's hopefully permeated by the time a couple of people have answered, which they have, is there anything now that you look back on having been a heliocentrist and gone, I'm now not terrified where previously I was? An example being that a meteor would hit you or will spin out of orbit and another planet will smash into us. Things like that. Or, alternatively... Go ahead.
Flares, yeah, solar flares, like aliens coming to invade us. I was afraid of all that kind of different stuff. Meteors.
Interesting. So when I put it the other way around, which is what were you concerned with when you were a heliocentrist, there's plenty of answers. But when it's now, is there anything now, not knowing what the sun is as an example, does that scare you? Whoever it was that just answered, I'm sorry to not be able to see you. I'll just move a few windows
No,
around.
not at all.
Duncan.
It doesn't scare me at all now. And probably because I know, Jesus is real, so that helps.
It
But then
excites me, not knowing what it is.
What excites you?
Yeah, because maybe one day we're going to find out, So it's like exciting. Like you say, it's like a wonderment now. It's like a young child again.
But now I get to put the mirror up and say, by contrast, if this was a forum full of anti-flat earthers, they would be quite perturbed, I think is the correct word, by not knowing what the sun is. That notion that we discuss quite freely and say it gives us a childlike wonderment would be perturbing to an anti-flat earther. I've witnessed it.
Not the exact answer you're looking for, but I'm still scared of the people who still believe in that shit.
Yeah, I suppose being conscious of the group mentality that can lead to terrifying behaviour in normies societally is quite scary. I often ponder that. So no, that's absolutely on track. Yeah. Knowing just how dumb people are means you know how dumb... Like this, the video we covered yesterday is akin to that, isn't it, Craig, right? The fact that even intelligent people can have a spate of bias towards something idiotic or detrimental or terrifying because they've been overloaded mentally with other things that are seemingly less important.
Yeah, but then they start demanding that you do what they say because they are a majority.
Yeah. And anybody that goes against that needs putting back in line because it unnerves the person that goes by consensus. We see that quite frequently. It was the most eye-opening thing when I stepped into Flat Earth. I remember I'll never forget it, going to Steve McClown of the Clan McLeod, or whatever Quantum Eraser calls him. And what's his name? Chris Seeley asked the question, do you guys believe in consensus reality? Now, when he asked the question, I smiled and thought there's no way you'll get anything other than a no, because obviously you can't believe in a consensus. Stupid, it's absolutely ludicrous. So I smiled when he asked the question. Yeah, I didn't know why he'd asked it until they all said yes, simultaneously, in unison. Yes. What? Let me spit out my drink and get out. What? What do you mean you believe in consensus reality? People agreeing does not form reality. Are you nuts? And at that moment, I realised the world is a very different place than I thought it was. The people who are in it, they behave in a way that I'd never really realised. It's quite scary. I shouldn't laugh. Speaking of consensus reality viewpoints, Craig, any scientific evidence of gravity? Craig and I were discussing this when I was in the shop the other day. Or was it yesterday?
Well, no. Well, not that I'm aware of. They do try and tell us that they can balance it with forces, other forces, but yeah, haven't really seen it.
But Craig was showing me a video in his shop of Professor... No. What was it, Bob? Was it Bob the Science Guy?
Yeah, Bob the Science Guy.
Right, and he's describing why his little predicament of non-nosing down forces that aren't being applied aren't needed to be applied because we have net force zero, with a countering of the external force that would be put on the plane as it goes around the ball with the gravity force that's pulling it inwards, resulting in net force zero. It's like, we don't have a force of gravity, and the plane isn't counteracting any force of up that it's having to not do. It just flies straight and level. But to square this circle, this non-event, this thing that isn't happening, that's planes flying around a ball, they don't. They have to come up with some convoluted nonsense where there's a zero effect. In other words, what occurs is cancelled out in their descriptions so that they can have a ball belief when there's no ball occurring. But there wouldn't need to be. And that's how they'll explain that there won't need to be any ball in this scenario. It's being cancelled out by the magical force of gravity. Therefore, why would we expect to see a ball? Are you stupid? Meanwhile, gravity is not a force and won't be counteracting any non-encountered centripetal forces that we aren't encountering. So there you go. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? This has got a lot of involvement, right? From Adam and Quantum Eraser. This is probably the most justifiable reason to give them an acknowledgement in the book. So I'm the first to admit that I have all of my understanding of science and the scientific method from Quantum Eraser, Adam, various other people, Dr. John Dee to a certain extent. But there's various people that I've got my understanding from. Now, QE described me as a blank canvas and very easy to train in this regard because I hadn't got the higher education preconceived notions of what science should be based on my higher education in science that I have not had. Therefore, those preconceived notions did not need to be dissolved when QE was training me on what science is. The point being that this is obviously in my own book, not really my subject, and has to be outsourced. There's no other way to describe it. So, although typically I'm fighting off Brian going, look, this is still my book while there's various bits getting edited, even though I keep quiet and have to only pipe up most of the time to give a mild opinion on how something should be phrased or something like that, right? And to stop Brian being a dick. Make him stop saying it's not my book just because I'm not saying very much at this particular stage. But in this regard, it's actually the other way around, which is say, well, I'm not saying much because this isn't, the words that are being applied to the page might have been mine at some point in this process. But realistically, if they were, they've come from QE to be mine and they're being edited by QE after the fact. And Adam, right? Same principle applies to both unilaterally. So therefore, when the book comes out, this is going to be a very QE chapter. So while we're editing it, QE's like, you don't have to de-QEify this, right? As in, take it out of the QE vernacular and make it a bit more Nathan-like. And he's suggesting you don't need to do that. And in many ways, I actually agree with him. It's like, why can't it have that glean of QE in the book when that is where it has been polished into me, if you will, metaphorically speaking. So he's right. But when you read that bit of the book, when we get to the science book, so I was listening to Quantum Eraser's live show yesterday. You could hear him and Adam discussing it, and I felt a little bit put out, actually, I've got to be honest, because I don't have any... What are they going to ask me about it, right? I wouldn't be so arrogant as to suggest that I should have a point of discussion when they're talking about where a contentious point about how a Newtonian aspect of science is hijacked, convoluted with natural laws, so that they can grease the skids of scientific methodology they don't have, in the gravity section of the book, rather than the any scientific evidence section of the book. Now, QE's suggestion is, well, we should deal with it in the science section, be done with it, and then undo the various gravity aspects based on different merits that we typically use during debate. Now, when he said that, I agree with him, until you see the beautiful words that Adam's actually put to page in this regard, and you go, well, it does make sense to just extend the chapter when it comes to gravity, because of this convolution and greasing of the skids with the scientific method that they don't have. So, yes, I can put these into beautifully phrased words without any stutterings or gaps, because it's something obviously I've been dealing with for many years. But I've only been dealing with it for many years because the people around me, in this case, Adam and QE, who by chance in this regard, are also actually the editors of the book. They're the ones crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's and getting all the phraseology along. Obviously, we've got Flatsy alongside who's doing it as well. She's grammatically excellent. But the point is that it's kind of their chapter where I've had a limited input to regurgitate what I've learned from the two people who are now editing the book. And whether or not that will shine through in those chapters is yet to be seen, because they're not quite finished. But I'm sure it will, is my point. And that's no bad thing, right? If it was me writing about it, there's a potential for mistakes. When it's Adam and QE writing about it in those particular chapters, the fact that it's going to come across more like their words than mine is irrelevant when the book's a reference book about flat Earth. You just want it to be of the highest quality. So therefore, this is one of those instances that if I was approached and someone was like, well, let's go through this science chapter, you're like, okay, no worries. And they get to a bit where the phraseology isn't necessarily Nathan-esque. It won't matter. Like, yeah, that has been phrased as carefully as it has by the Adam Meakin and Quantum Eraser when we edited this book. Good job it is, because it's perfect, and it will be perfect as a result of those two gentlemen pushing their input on this particular, or these particular chapters, as the case may be. So it's one of them. It's certainly noteworthy in this instance where I'll put out a video of, no, you're not getting a mention in my book. Simon Dan, for instance, isn't getting a mention, right? When we talk about you and your reference frames are ruined, I do believe it gets put in quotes, but who quoted it? Who said it? That doesn't even get a mention. Simon Dan doesn't get a name. Gotta be kidding. So obviously, if you're gonna mention somebody by name, they've got to have, this is a terrible word, earned it. But that is the case, and as crass as that may sound, in the case of Quantum Eraser and Adam Meakin, they have absolutely earned an acknowledgement in the book. I just want to get that out there. It's worth talking about. If someone else says, well, no, I got a mention, it's like, refer to Adam and Quantum Eraser and see what they had to do just to get a mention. A lot is the answer. Anyway, the science chapter will be outstanding. And but for the fact that Adam and Quantum Eraser have put their input, it probably wouldn't have been fantastic and outstanding and perfect, which it will be. But that's what you need in a flat Earth reference book, which is what this will be. The book title has changed. Is everybody aware of that? What was All Roads Lead to a Flat Earth? The Ultimate Flat Earth Reference Guide has now changed. The title is now Welcome to Flat Earth. It may have a subtitle, The Ultimate Reference, or something similar. But I think that's a much, much, much catchier title, and far more akin to those in the know to what we say here. Welcome to Flat Earth is a universal catchphrase that we all adopted. Earth measured flat, that's my 2024 rhetoric. But it's not universally used. It's universally factually accurate, but it's not universally. Welcome to Flat Earth is, though. Would you not all agree? We have all used that at some point when winning a debate.
Absolutely.
If you were to see that on the shelf, I know we don't really have bookshelves anymore, but if you were to see that on the shelf at W.H. Smith's or Waterstones or whatever your local book retailer is, and the title, you just read it on the front of the book, Welcome to Flat Earth, I think that would be more likely to get you to pick it up than All Roads Lead to a Flat Earth. I just think that's a better title. It is going to be a title. It's my book, and it doesn't matter if you don't like it. I've decided, and it's mine, so who cares? Listen,
you see that on a shelf, you're going to be intrigued.
I think so. I think Welcome to Flat Earth as a title, you go, what? That's a statement as well. Shout out to Pablo for the super chat. When is the book signing party? I don't know. That's something that's like, as horrible as it may sound, low on the priority list. Shout out to Jardo. Hope the book says... I'm going to have to stand up to go and read these super chats. It's terrible. Back in a sec. He says, I hope the book says thank you for the 2167 memberships. What's 2167? What's that number? Is that how many memberships you've bought? You bought 2,000 memberships. Well, thank you for the super chat either way, and thank you for all the memberships you buy people, Jardo. I really appreciate that. I like the fact that I see those people in the chat, in the members' videos, leaving comments. I love that fact. So, yeah. Brilliant. Thank you both. Oh, I haven't put it on screen. I blame the fact that I've only got one monitor. At least I set it up. There you go. There's the super chats. We're rolling on by. Thank you, Jardo. Thank you, Pablo.
Hey, Nathan, instead of putting people in the book and having to do this every day, after the book's released, why not just have a show where you thank certain people?
Why not do that?
Instead of like having to tell them all the time they're not going to be in it.
I just want to thank you, John. Just you. You personally. From the bottom of my heart.
There you go. You happy?
No.
You can have a whole show to do that again if you want.
No, I'm just saying, like, there's no need to tell people that you're not putting them in the book. Like, it's... Why would you say that?
No, I think there's a need for Nathan to say that.
Yeah,
but you could think of it as you being mentioned in the book. I'm going to.
Neil, you're not an asshole, but you can think of yourself as an asshole.
You got it.
There you go. Now you're catching on, John.
Look, the point of not mentioning people is number one, it becomes overwhelming, right? That is obvious. We've discussed that aspect of it, but it's more than that. It's that the book isn't about me. It's about Earth being flat and that journey of discovery that we have all partaken in. Now, have we all had an influence on Earth being flat? No. Have we all been deceived into arguing in Feast of Nonsense? Yeah, that gets discussed in the book. Does it need your name next to that? No, it doesn't, no. Sorry. Does it need my name?
Here's my outlook on it. If you want to mention, then write a book. Go write a book.
What I'm saying it seems like it's alienating more people to sit there and dwell on them not being in the book than it would be just to have a show where you thank people, like, I don't know. It just seems like it's
You're gonna make me vomit, John.
self-sabotaging in a way.
It's not self-sabotaging. It'll all make sense, right? I'm going to play this clip. I trimmed this out from one of the book editing sessions. So hopefully it'll go on mute for a sec. May not have got a mention in this book, but you can think of it as though you have got a mention in this book.
They actually are definitely fundamental.
You understand, right? Me and QE don't get a mention in the book.
I won't stand for this.
In the text of the book, we will not be named. I don't think, but in there it will say contributors. Without the help of the Adam Meakin and Quantum Racer, I could not have wrote this book.
You think old Nathan would stay up if it wasn't for my clips? Come on.
I'm gonna write.
I'll say it once. I'll say it once and for all. Right. You may not have got a mention in this book, but you can think of it as though you have got a mention in this book.
Eli.
I'm going to quote you on that, and I'm going to go on a public tour saying, I did write that book because I do think of myself as an honorary writer, although I wasn't mentioned.
There you go.
Nathan himself has said that.
Right. So what you got to boast about is, yeah, I was there.
Let's just get this squared away. Neil, ask me if you're getting acknowledged in the book.
Nathan, will I be getting an acknowledgement in this book?
Neil, you will not be mentioned or acknowledged in this book. However, you can think of it as though you have been acknowledged or mentioned in this book by name.
Yeah, boy, that's funny.
Eli, when we started this, the only bit I was going to write, I was asked to write the preface to deal with this, specifically with this exact problem. I'll read it to you. See if by the time I get to the end, a little bit tingly and you recognize it. Good afternoon, everyone. As a Flat Earth Debate panel member, I have said that salutation many, many a time. Some say good morning, others good evening. A recognition there has always been a variety of contributors from across the plane. So what is a FED panelist? Simply put, and as Nathan always begins the show with, anyone who clicks the link in this video below. However, some people linger, and in doing so, ultimately contribute. It may have taken the passage of time to recognise the benefit of some. Is there a demographic, you may ask? Well, yes, but it's not just flat earthers, also truth seekers, the curious, Mickey takers, and of course, ball earthers. And as time went on, a new category emerged called the anti-flat earther. Who are they, I hear you say? I assure you they will be discussed in great detail. I'd like to thank all those flat, ball, and anti-flat earthers. Their contribution in the debates has helped us sharpen our swords so we can proudly say today, the earth is observed, measured, surveyed, built upon, aviated, mapped, and navigated flat. As Nathan has said, if everyone does a little, I won't have to do anything. A motivational speech, you will agree. Not exactly true, but it is the combined contribution of the flat panel members with a pinch of tolerance, research, diligence, passion and hard work, friendship, and a little abductive reasoning have built a body of evidence that substantiates the above statement. Something we should all be proud of, all of us, whether mentioned specifically or not within these pages. And that brings me to the final point of my contribution, to thank those flat panel members for their outstanding work. We know who we are. The awakening continues and arguments always need refining and disseminating. So I'd ask you to all keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate, subscribe, share, and if you wish or have something to contribute, please join, then ask for 4 more hours. Long live Flat Earth Debate.
Again, I'll say it one more time. You may not have got a mention in that little outtake from the book, but you can think of it like you've got a mention.
I do.
Okay.
As messed up as it is, I do.
Hey, Brian.
Will we buy a mention in the book?
But you
Say
see how
again.
it's saying after-
To do
after
it,
you said
excellent.
that.
Don't interrupt, John. Right. Craig, you do not get a mention in this book, but you can think of it as though you got a mention. Glad we cleared that up.
Some wise ass in chat said Neil will be a staple in Nathan's book.
A staple.
You know, a staple. Wise guy.
No, that's got double
but
meaning, though, hasn't
you
it?
can throw things
A
about it
state-
being antagonistic, right? To some of the people that are asking about it. Like, I thought Adam's paragraph was eloquent and it explained everything. And then you come in and you're like antagonizing Elijah with that. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, we're only having a bit of fun. It's only a bit of fun. Right, shout out to Jardo. Lucky D. Rose is not doing the preface. Why, are you saying he's a bit long-winded? Indubitably. Very good. Thank you for the super chat. Jardo.
Can we have super chats in the book? That would be good, wouldn't it? On the front cover.
I don't know about that. Like I say, the book isn't about me. There's very little about Nathan Oakley in the book. There's a little bit of an opener, like any book in this type. You'd get a bit of a waffle about who the author is. That's me. Obviously, that's there. But beyond that, it's not like the examples are constantly, and then I did this, and then it's not like that. It's not that type of book. So if I'm barely getting a mention in my own bleeding book, you know what I mean? If I'm not used as an example, why the hell would you be? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the point is you got to pay to get a mention. Put them in the back cover.
I didn't realise you were offering money. yes, we'll have a word later, Craig. No worries.
I knew it. You didn't hear it last time.
Shh, Neil. The adults are negotiating. Yeah, nudge, nudge.
Can you tell us what happens at the end of your book, Nathan?
All live happily ever after.
It turns out the world's flat.
Very nice.
Well, do you find that out on the first page? You're welcome to Flat Earth immediately because you're finding out immediately if you're reading that book. But likewise, if you're giving it someone as a gift, that's something that loads of people have told me. It's more often, I want to give this book to this person I know. That is the most common thing someone says to me about my own book. Not, obviously I can't wait to read your book. When's it coming out? I get that too, obviously. But more common than that is, I want to give it to this person. You're like, you do? And then what they're actually saying isn't, I want to give you money so that you can support your family, Nathan. And I just want you to know that how I feel about your good work. That's not what they're saying. They're saying, I want to ruin this prick's day with this book. When's it coming out? That's what they're actually saying to me. And I hear it. Now, I'm laughing because you want to hear, I so appreciate your work, Nathan. I'm touched by you and I want to support you. That's why I'm looking forward to buying your book and reading every word that you've poured over and spent all this time coming. No. That is not what people want out of this book at all. On the majority of people, they want to ruin people's day with it. That's what they want it for. No. I know it. They know it.
That's bad. Was your day ruined when you came to understanding Earth is flat? No, it was not. So how dare you assume that people's days or lives will be ruined?
Metaphorically speaking, I mean they want to give it to the guy that sits across from them on the Sunday lunch table. Yeah? Family member that they want to give it to, right? These aren't people that want to literally ruin that person's day. What they mean is they've ended up in an argument with brother, sister, mother, father, cousin, nephew, niece, and that person has shouted them down and called them a name or something like that. Just been derogatory. Now, they don't want to be the same. They don't want to lower themselves to that level, but they do want to correct them, normally because they love that person. Yeah? So when I say ruin their day, that's not what I necessarily mean. I mean, they want to give the book to a loved one who's got annoyed with them, and they don't want to have an argument with that loved one. And if they give them a book instead, they're going to be pushed to be shouting at cousin, uncle, father, if it's a book that's in front of them. You know what I mean? But
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I want to agree with you. That's exactly what I've been hearing. And I was thinking it. Like, the only reason that you want this book is to give to that bastard in your family. So
you see that? Oh, thank you, Brian. Oh, I take it all back, Brian. I take it all back. Brian's awesome. Thank you for agreeing with me at the time I want it the most. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. They want to ruin people's day with it, don't they, Brian?
No, I'm giving it to. Hold on, I told my son I'm buying him a copy.
Gift. It's the most selfish gift. It's like giving someone. It's like the Homer Simpson giving marriage the bowling ball that he's going to use. It's purely for them, so they can rub it in the face of that person across the table from them in their family or their friends. Yeah.
That is not what I'm doing with my son. I told him yesterday, you're getting a copy for Christmas.
That's exactly what you're doing. It's annoying what you're doing. Yeah. It's Bosch Flat Earth book. That's what it is. Happy Christmas. Read that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And in this instance, this is a perfect example, actually, Neil, because like you say, you don't want to ruin your son's day. You want him to know what's what, right? In other words, I'm saying, when these things happen, it's because you love that person dearly. And this is a case in point. You're saying, oh, no, I don't want to ruin my son's day with this book when I give it him for Christmas. Shit Christmas present. Get him a Nintendo.
He's got that already, and it's not a crap Christmas present. It's a good one because there's a lot of things in there that I don't get a chance to break down to him because it ends up in an argument where he could read it. He will read it.
Maybe.
It's like giving some guy a video for Christmas of his wife cheating on him. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's going to be problematic. That book will cause that person problems, and you know it. That will cause your son problems. That will annoy your son. But it's not about ruining your son's day. It's about making your day a little bit better. And that's what everyone's at, isn't it? There's a loving gift from me to you.
Yeah.
It happens to prove my point or support me.
I'm just going to shout out Jardo. He says, I have a family member who has a copy of Robert Sungenis' book, Flat Earth, Flat Wrong. And he says he can't wait to put it on top of that book in the super chat. Thank you very much, Jardo, for all these super chats. Really appreciate the support. Now, that's kind of nice and neutral, isn't it? You're not saying you want to bosh, slap it down and tell him Earth's flat. You're just casually putting it on top of the contradictory opinion in both physical terms and metaphorical terms if you put that book, my book, on top of Sungenis' book. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. It's a lot more neutral. Perfect way of rounding out this little section of discussion. Because it is not as black and white as one or the other. You want to ruin someone's day or you love this person dearly and just want them to have all the information. Regardless, just buy my book.
I was looking Refracted's what's the one I'm looking for? Suggestion earlier about how you might dedicate some shows to the people that aren't getting mentioned in the book. I reckon I deserve at least a week long of shows, so I'd be expecting them.
Oh, I love it.
I
love it. So I get to do this again, do I? Brian, you're so sweet. Brian, you do not get a mention in this book, but you can think of it like you get a mention in this book, Brian.
It's okay. I know I could buy my way in there if I wanted, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to make sure to mention you in a certain publication I'll be bringing out.
What about that time I was caught in the town naked or wearing women's underwear? That time?
Yeah.
Something highly embarrassing. That didn't happen, by the way.
No, I'd be mentioning you and others, but as I said the other day, the size of the font that I will use for your names depends on how happy I am with you at the time. So let's just say I'm really getting on well with Eli. He's going to get like a massive Eli Freeman, right? Whereas you, because I won't even be mentioned in your book, you're going to get a very small Nathan Oakley.
Oh, Eli, of course Eli's in the book. I mean, about a third of the way through, we have a whole chapter on what it is to know Eli. There's a framed picture of him. It's full colour. It's going to cost a lot to produce.
By the way, I didn't know Sungenis done a book attacking Flat Earth.
Yes.
I knew he was a geocentric. I didn't know he did. That guy, that annoys me about him even more. I knew he was a bullshitter and other things, but the fact he was attacking us, it's like, that's after really upping the ante now. I didn't know that.
Like, what, before now he was all right? He's like, he's all right, geocentrist.
No, he wasn't all right, but I knew he was a lawyer, basically. He's a bullshitter, basically, right? I'm allowed to say that, Nathan? That's not considered swearing.
That's fine. That's good.
Yeah, I knew he was a bullshitter, and I know he's wrong about certain things, but I was just like, I didn't know he was after directly attacking us. It's like, that's after upping the ante for me in my mind. I'm like, all right, Robert, you have a bit of a neck on you there. You know, considering you have absolutely zero geometric evidence for this globe of yours. Very good, very good.
I didn't know either, to be perfectly honest, but I don't exactly keep up to date with Robert Sungenis and what he's been doing. I never really liked him. It was Jaron that originally introduced me to him, 10 years ago? It was a really early introduction, and I kind of rolled my eyes at what he was putting out there and never really looked back at what Robert Sungenis was doing or what he stood for or anything. But he's a name that's definitely hung around like a stale fart. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, he turns up every now and again, and it keeps on being like the people like Jaron and Witsit. They keeps bringing him up, putting him out front and center. I mean, he was on Tim Pool's panel with Witsit there. Witsit was talking to him personally. He had him on his show sometime prior to that. Jaron Campanella is bringing him up. It's like, you do a lot of promoting of this guy. He seems to be around everywhere you guys are. Do you know what I mean? Yet he's attacking us geometrically, that I just found out about.
I see.
So, it's like, go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, it's just intriguing, right? Jaron has been putting this particular individual into the fray for a long, long, long time. He's attacking flat earthers. Jaron's just come out as I'm not a flat earther anymore. The whole thing's rigged. They're still shills. No other way to describe it.
Yeah, well, QE is in a contradiction. Because QE calls... I had to drop out of the show last night after about an hour or two. I had to drop out. And it went on for a close on an hour and 45 minutes or something after that. And I listened back to it. And QE is in a contradiction because QE is saying that Jaron is dumb, right? But then he's calling him a turncoat and a backstabber. So which is it? Is he doing what he's doing because he's dumb? Or is that QE's opinion? Or is QE's opinion that he's doing what he's doing because he's a backstabber? Now, someone can be dumb and be a backstabber. But, QE's calling them both. Is that not contradictory? Because I don't think he's that dumb at all. Now,
No, he can be a dumb backstabber. That's okay.
Yeah, but I don't think he's that dumb at all. I think that he plays dumb and he does a good job of it.
No, he doesn't even play dumb.
This.
You were telling me about the evolution guy coming from Jaron. Well, that's not playing dumb. If he's giving you... It's a very Alex Jones-esque approach where some of the information is so juicy that you can't quite frigging believe your ears when you hear it. Right? The guy who opposed Robotham was one of the major contributors to the evolution theory. Not Darwin. What's his name again?
Well, theories. I won't call it theory now, but it's Alfred Russel Wallace. Sir Alfred Russel Wallace, I think is his name. Yeah, the surveyor. Yeah, it just happened to be the very guy who, and you know why? Why? If you look at the basic Google history that Google will give you and Wikipedia will give you, it ends on where he supposedly debunked Robotham with 7/6R. Right? What a joke, right? But Robotham actually, and this information I heard first from Jaron Campanella again, right? If you look into the writings of Robotham, he actually debunked them, and it's there historically that Robotham debunked him afterwards and stole the victory outright. And it was given to him by a judge when Robotham showed that what he was calling Earth curve was actually only perspective. Now, via what we've been calling optical drop for years, but that's what it was. Now, isn't it funny that part of the history is left out? They stopped the history prior to that part where your man Wallace claimed that Robotham wasn't accounting for refraction, 7/6R, right? Begging the question. But then they don't mention him when it comes to what Darwinism. They don't mention him. He's never mentioned. Yet he was one of the originators prior to Darwin. Why don't they mention him? Because people might actually read into him, and he won't, and then find out actually he was debunked when it came to his claims of it being a globe. He was debunked by the very fella that history has told us debunked him.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Or that he had debunked. History told us that debunked him. That he had debunked. Sorry, he was debunked by that man. He was debunked by Robot. So it's all very shady. Like, why would you not mention him? And of course, that information came from Jaron Campanella as well. Isn't that strange? Now, not the bit I'm batting in there, but the bit about your man Russell Wallace. Alfred Russell Wallace. Sorry, Leah, go on.
This book was from 2019. Listen to how he outlines it. Flat Earth, flat wrong, and historical, biblical, and scientific analysis. he's immediately in a category error, and he's immediately not biblical.
The word geometric isn't there. Do you know what I mean? It's like, wow, no geometry then, Robert. You know, I would like Sungenis to explain a few things about his geocentric position, and someday I'm hoping to ask him publicly.
And how does it say the book works well as a reference for the flat Earth theory debate, but doesn't show enough scrutiny to be a truly good book?
Who said that, or where does it say that?
This is somebody writing something about the book. It's like an article. It's not a reference.
The reference to pain management, it may be for some people or something. Because you don't have to put out much that matters. You just have to put out some rubbish that people will believe. Just enough for them to go, yeah, that's okay, that's good enough for me, it's not flat. You know, and instead of finding out what it is that they're accepting, whether that has any validity or not.
Here's the problem. Why do so many modern, apparently intelligent people today believe the Earth is flat? Believe. There it is again.
Well, of course, there was a lot of believers. Like, see, when you're a believer, being a believer is on the fence because you can change your belief to anything you want. You can go back to believing in a globe, like Jerome Campanella claims he did. You know, or Patty Spear, you know, like she claims she did. You know, like you can believe anything you want because you can only believe in a globe because there's absolutely no geometric way in reality of proving its existence.
This is going to piss you off. You read this. Robinson Genis explains that most flat Earth is, what's that? That's a freaking, what is that? What's that?
Fallacy.
Stereotype, right? Most flat earthers reach their conclusions based on a combination of their interpretations of the Bible, of church history, and scientific data that supposedly proves the Earth is flat. Exactly. He's in a category error.
They need to take it into a category error, though, don't they? They need to turn it from Earth being measured flat into our belief about what Earth is and how our belief about what Earth is attempted to be proven by us. How's this mic sound, by the way? I'm just testing a few mics.
It's a bit tinny.
A bit tinny?
Thin.
It works if you're in a bingo.
It's an Elvis mic. I can get
not tin, a bit thin.
I can get right up on top of it. It's an Elvis mic, so if I get up on top of it, it's got a lot of proximity effect. How's that?
It sounds like I'm in a bingo hall. I made it. You know, what they're doing is like they lean on Christianity, right? So someone's Christian belief. So it's a belief based off of someone's Christian belief. And then they start throwing in scientific something, right? That has completely nothing to do with measurement of the Earth. You know, it's science, not measurement. So, you know, they use a category error and they use belief, but they don't address the geometry. None of these people address the geometry, ever. And when they want to start talking about the geometry of a globe, they want to start talking about, what do they start talking about? The celestial dome or celestial sphere, which is purely mathematical. It's based on a flat plane, off of a flat plane. It has, you know what I mean? It has no act. The sky is not curved. You know what I mean? People, they're not getting that. The people out there who think, like Sungenis, I'm sure, who thinks the sky is curved. But that's what they start doing, you know. It's fraudulent. You know, so the only way to attack us is fraudulently. That's it.
And then he's going to pull this nonsense that you go back to the original biblical languages to explain how Bible verses that apparently describe a flat Earth actually describe something different. I bet Paula, I'm going to reach out to Paula, see if she knows exactly. I guarantee she knows about this book.
Oh, but did you hear the wording? Actually describe something different.
Yeah.
What then? What did they describe? Why didn't they just
Not a globe.
Yeah, are they describing a globe? I mean, they don't describe what they say. Those people say these verses describe. They describe something different. So what did they describe then? How come you didn't state it? Because you know that you're bullshitting everybody. because they do describe exactly what it's claimed that they describe, because they describe them, or they describe it. You know, this is bullshit or 101. That is classic. That is Faulkner. That's straight from the House of Faulkner right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And come to think of it, it's the author's Robert Sungenis Sr., publisher is Catholic Apologetics, publishing date 2018. 736 pages, Nathan.
Okay.
736 pages of bullcrap, I bet.
You say something, Nathan?
No, I was just acknowledging Neil.
All right. You sound much better now than you did earlier. Yeah, Neil, this is Sungenis. Like, he's doing the same. Him and Faulkner and all the rest, they all do the same thing. They always come at it from a fraudulent viewpoint. They never address the actual things. Like, they'll address some stupid nonsense from David Weiss, right? Some nonsense thing that he throws out there on some podcast. They'll address that. But they won't even address anything good that David Weiss might come out with. They only address they always want to address Eric the Bayes 200 proofs. I don't know what it is with them. They need to address this. And it's always nonsense when they're trying to go against Eric the Bayes 200 proofs. It's nonsense. But they come up with. It's like, I'm sorry, but you can't, like, what you're coming up with is not addressing what he's saying. You know, things about lighthouses and stuff like that. Like, they have to beg the question to address the thing. They don't have. If you have to beg the question, it means you don't have any proof. You know, it's like, no, the reason you can see that lighthouse from 60 miles away is because blah, 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 10 or 12 over 6 hour on a particular day at that time of year. It's like you're just making up, and the temperature would have probably been about this, you know what I mean, in that month. It's like you're just making up a load of rubbish. That's all you're doing. You're making up a load of rubbish and you're trying to call it a response or a rebuttal to something, and it's not.
Yeah, it's that.
Yeah.
You're right. Sungenis analyzes these arguments one by one and presents a more accurate view of the Earth.
I'll just say it one more time. You've got to make it into it seeming like it's an argument, right? That is to say, a statement of fact, Earth measured flat, is not an argument, is it? Anyway, how does this sound? This is another one. You can actually hear what I'm saying, right? You can make out what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it feels like you're stunted a little bit. We can hear all of the words, but it sounds a little bit stunted or something.
Yes, because it's a 1970s Sony stereo mic that cost about, I don't know, 40 quid in the 70s. It's not my Neumann. I'm just testing that it works. If you can make out what I'm saying, that's good enough.
Yes, a bit thin.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not on that mic anymore. It worked, though. Good. Yeah, they need to turn it.
Because it was
just make that point again,
now.
because he was lost because of microphones, which isn't my intention. Because I want to agree with Brian, right? Not only because he backed me up at the beginning of the show, but also because I do actually agree with him. They need to make it into something it isn't, right? Flat Earth is not about an argument. There is no argument about Earth being flat. That's a statement of fact, and it's axiomatically linked to all measurements. So that's not an argument I'm having with you. But if you can make it seem like it's an argument that we're having, then you can make it seem like you've won that argument, right? That's what needs to be happening, and that's what anti-flat earthism is.
Yeah, maybe that's now, but we got to give the guy a little slack. This was published in 2018. When did the Black Swan come out, and when did we start acknowledging that the Earth is measured flat? So we can't hold them to that.
It's not the point. I mean, there was measurements of Earth back then. I was doing presentations on surveying back then. Other people were speaking about things like something.
Yeah, that's true.
And QE had already addressed the airplane argument. Adam had addressed the airplanes. Do you know what I mean? Both of their arguments were validated by the pitch data. Not that they needed the pitch data, but you know what I mean? What they were stating was validated. The point is that like he's one of these people that chooses to attack stupid nonsense. And when I say stupid nonsense, the kind of things that might just be true, but they're easier to attack, if you know what I mean. And it doesn't mean, when I say stupid nonsense, it doesn't mean that they're of no use or they're no good, or they're not wrong. It's just easier for that person to attack.
He's going for the low-hanging fruit.
Well, yeah, it's a bit, it's a little bit like, the way some people, they address like the Feast of Nonsense and different things like that, but they don't address, you know what I mean? They like what Nathan said a minute ago, like there's no measurement of Earth where you don't require a horizontal plane of reference. Ever. You cannot measure the Earth in any way or reference the Earth without starting with a horizontal plane of reference. That is required at all times. And even when it comes to there, as John very, very, very succinctly pointed out in the past, even for something like orbits, they have to start with a horizontal plane of reference. Something that they don't even have within their paradigm. Do you know what I mean? But like, that is never addressed. But then again, a lot of flat earthers weren't addressing that. Not saying there wasn't the flat earthers addressing it, because there was. Curie, Adam, and other people. But the point being is that there wasn't enough people addressing it. People were on bloody NASA videos with Jerome Campanella.
And Feast of Nonsense.
Yeah, well, so even the Feast of Nonsense, what is the Feast of Nonsense? Ice walls and domes, right? That doesn't mean there isn't an ice wall in the dome. It just means that it's not a good argument. You can claim containment, solid containment. That's fine for our water and our air, right? That's absolutely fine. But making claims about what the solid containment is when you can't prove that the solid containment for our air is a dome, or prove that solid containment for our liquid water oceans is an ice wall, then what's the point? So people can attack you on the ice walls.
When you say what's the point,
your ice walls, show us your dome.
When you say what's the point, you mean don't be claiming that? Is that what you mean by what's the point? As in, don't claim that if you can't back it, if you can't show what you think an ice wall is, and that it's encompassing us to the tune of whatever 74,000 miles it's alleged, right? Well, don't claim it. If you can't show that we've got a glass dome over us, then don't say it. Now, the requirement for containment is a requirement for containment because we've got gas pressure. Now, that's how we assert it. We must have containment. Do I know what the containment is? No. Does that mean that I'm going to suggest that we've got containment? No, it's an antecedent-consequent relationship, and I can state it as an absolute fact, based on laws of nature. But I don't know what it is, so I won't be suggesting that I know what that containment is. Same with ice walls. It drives me absolutely up the wall. Don't say it if you don't know it. What do you reckon to this? This is a much more modern microphone. How do you reckon this sounds?
It sounds a bit better, that one. It's not as good as your Neumann, but it sounds good. Sounds okay. It's clear.
I'd agree. Well, this costs $10. This is a £10 microphone, but bang up to date.
Well, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. Very good.
Yeah. See, the thing is, you're not making. If you think that you're making a claim that the liquid water oceans we have in the world require solid containment, that's not a claim. That's just a fact. Water, all liquids, right? All fluids, but liquids and gases, all require containment, right? So it's not a claim that I'm making that we must have solid containment for our liquid water oceans. It's just a fact. It's not a claim that I'm making that we must have containment for us to have gas pressure, temperature, and vacuum. That's not some random claim that I'm making that I need to address in a courtroom. That's just a fact. These are just facts. The people who need to prove things are the people who are claiming the opposite. And they can't because they don't have any proof. They have a load of jargon and mathematics that confuses the world. And that's it. So, but as Nathan said, don't be claiming ice walls and domes unless you can prove ice walls and domes. You don't need to claim that. You just, like, this is an old thing with us. We've been saying it for years. You just need to claim solid containment. Right? That's what you need. Stick to what you know. Pipes exist. Bottles exist. Canisters exist. Cups exist. Saucers exist.
Yeah, but Brian, what about a puddle? What about a puddle? That's what this guy said to me. What about a puddle?
Why is a puddle forming? Because there's an undulation on the floor, on the ground. That's why puddles form. puddles don't form on totally level surfaces.
No, it just spreads out.
Yeah. Puddles don't form. Like, do you find a puddle at the bottom? Like, if you put a little bit of water into the base of a cup, right, or something that you have a bit of so whatever ceramic, whatever you have, or glass that you have that has a flat baseline. Is there a puddle there, or does it spread out throughout the entirety of the base? And then, obviously, the more you put in, then you get more up towards the top of the glass. But you don't end up with a puddle because the glass has a totally flat base. It's a level flat base, so you don't end up with a puddle. You end up with a puddle when you have undulations. Technically, a lake is a big puddle in a lot of ways. It is a big puddle for you. It's just, what's a puddle? It's a very small lake that evaporates. You just don't have that amount of evaporation for a lake. Simple as.
Now, has anybody heard, because Kiwi told me to look for it, the debate that's supposed to happen between Jaron and Whitsitt? Has anybody heard anything?
All I heard is what I heard on the show. Is the first I heard of it was last
Because
night.
I was looking, I couldn't find anything about it.
So you're suggesting there's going to be a debate between Jaron and Whitsitt now? These two seemingly previously friends that went on their Antarctic adventure together are now at loggerheads and about to have a debate. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's what's being said.
Okay. I mean, in the meantime, how does this microphone sound? It's about 10 years old. SM57.
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad? Is it broken?
About very thin.
Very thin. Okay, I'll have to have a listen.
There's a little loud sound at the end of it. It's like as if a loose wire or something. Yeah.
So is this one? You're saying that one was broken?
It sounded like there was a loose wire. You know when, let's just say you have a microphone plugged in, but it's not plugged in. Like a headphones with a small jack, but you don't have it plugged in enough. Where you're getting that little.
Okay. I'll swap the line. I'll see if that was just my. I've got a fault on my interface on one of the lines, which is the one I'm using to test microphones, of course. So I'll swap it over and I'll see how I get on.
Yeah, because it could be just a jack issue, the female and male or whatever. The female will be for the jack.
Not to change the subject, but this is outstanding. I remember when I was just a listener and it would go over an hour, I would be like, yes, more show. Did not want it to end. So I know the people that are just listening on YouTube are very happy right now.
Yeah, well, I want to address something. There's a lot of things that flat earthers say. Now, obviously, if they're saying things that are involving ice walls and domes, then they are making a claim. But if you're just making a statement of fact that liquid and gases require solid containment, that's just a statement of fact. So for a long time, for 10 years now, and maybe obviously longer than that if you go back into the history of flat earth, you have a lot of people on our opposing side, and the first thing they want to do is call something a claim when it's not a claim. There's so many things that are not a claim. If I claim gravity doesn't exist, right? If I make the statement, gravity doesn't exist, right? A force of gravity doesn't exist. Is that a claim? No,
it's a statement of fact.
It's a statement of fact.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing. And that may not even be the best example, but the point is that if you're just making a statement of fact, geometrically, especially with geometry, you're just making a statement of fact, and it's not a claim then you're supposed to debate with someone about. It's just either they accept reality or they don't. You know what I mean? I don't need to debate like the other day with the Petey video where he didn't know that a zenith angle requires a horizontal because it's the same as an elevation angle, just read the opposite way. You know what I mean? I don't need to debate on whether a zenith angle requires a horizontal. It just does. It's in relation to 90 degrees. That's a vertical and a horizontal.
He's actually done a response video. We were going to cover it today. But I've now swapped. I just want to check this is okay because I've swapped the line now and I want to swap it back to my main mic because otherwise I haven't got my main mic. This is plugged into that line. But does it sound better now? Because I'm pretty sure that the fault you're describing on each of these mics is actually just because it's going into a faulty line. Does it sound okay?
If that's the same mic as I was talking about, yeah, it sounds way better.
Yeah, this is the exact same mic. Yeah, I've just swapped the line.
That sounds fine. To be honest with you,
I think
If
they
you-
all will.
If you,
I think they all will. I'll do once we've finished the live stream. But for now, it just means I can tick them off the list as in they're working. So that's fine. Good.
Why don't you do the 3-minute PD video while Brian's here? It's only 3 minutes.
We will. I'm just saying I want to swap over from this. Now I know this mic's working. I'll put my other mic back in. I've got 2 more mics to test, Neil. We'll get there, I promise. We're still live.
yeah, relax. Look at that.
Outstanding.
Yeah, but in fact, we have been had our backs to the wall for a long time, been put on the back foot because we're supposed to be defending some claim that's just a statement of fact. Do you know what I mean? It's just a statement of fact. It's not a claim you're making. It's true. It's just a fact. And it's like, so your claim is, no, I'm not making a claim. It's a statement of fact. You know what I mean? This is not just some random claim, but we're stuck in a position where our opposition keep on turning things into claims when they're not, and we're then supposed to support something that isn't a claim at all. Why am I supposed to support? Just as an example, that horizontal is a continuous orientation. Like, why would someone want one of us to support that? Not that it can't be supported. The point is that it's just a statement of fact.
Yeah.
Why do we need to be? Why is that suddenly a claim that me or some flat earth are suddenly making? Go on, Neil. Sorry.
You know what's another thing that they say, and you brought attention to this.
What's that, Neil?
That flat earthers deny gravity.
Yeah, they need to turn it into an if statement, and they need us to be denying their positive claim, so they don't have to defend it as a positive claim that they've got to prove. They can defend us saying their positive claim isn't real. This is the nastiest mic I've got. How's it sound?
Pretty bad. Sounds like you're talking to us from through your car stereo in 1987.
That's what it is. This is a 1960s Sanyo microphone that was designed to go in tape recorders. And for whatever reason, right, these, again, it's about 10 quid, this mic. It's vintage. But I sound more of these than anything. People absolutely love this particular microphone. I keep having to buy them because they keep getting sold immediately. I have no idea why people love them, because they sound crap. Coloured.
They're retro, yeah? They're retro. Yeah,
sound. That's what people want. That's what they say to me. Oh, it sounds retro. By retro, you mean crap. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it sounds retro.
Well, it's like people who want to have a turntable and they can play records on it. They like it. They like the sound, that old phono sound, and
well,
the
sound is softer on vinyl.
Mechanism. Sorry?
The sound is softer on vinyl.
Oh, it's a lovely sound on vinyl. It's the nicest of all the sounds. But the point I'm making is people want it because not just they want it because it's retro. If they could get that exact same sound through digital, they'd still want to have the turntable and the records. They want to have the retro, you know what I mean?
This is quite cool. So I actually paid a little bit extra for this reason, for this mic. It's the last one. Right, so this is can you hear me, first of all? Can you actually hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit better.
Should do. So this is like, because I've sold so many of these tape recorder mics, I bought one, they're all unbadged, right? And they were originally made by Sanyo. And the ones that are Sanyo badged, again, I've sold a few of them, but I bought one that was really nice. For no other reason than nostalgia that I've sold so many of them. I must have sold 30 of these. But this is a Japanese competitor Sanyo that's made a nice version of that crap mic. So I spent a little bit extra to get this. It's a TTC tape recorder microphone that's nice. It's instead of plastic, it's metal. It's the same thing, but just cheap and nasty and Japanese. And I don't know why I bought it. I just did. But this is the last one I'm testing, so I promise there's no more.
There's a nice kind of sound out of that, to be honest. I like the retro sound out of that mic. I don't mind it too much. If you were singing a song into it, it might come out nice.
Shout out to Fisherman in the Boxers in the chat. Fisherman!
Oops, sorry about that. Blasting you out. Yeah, exactly. That's why I purchased it. It's like, I'm getting to the point now. Adam was like, on QE show, he just needs to buy a few more microphones while we deal with the science. Oh, I need to turn down. I'm way too hot. Hold on. Yeah, QE's telling Adam that Nathan just needs to buy a few more mics while we do the science section of the book. But in reality, that is just him saying that, right? We are actually really close to the end, and I've stopped buying mics. This is that mic that I just tested. Although I'll be making videos of them for the adverts on eBay, I'm not going to buy any more. I've deleted all of my pipeline of mics that I had because I've got enough. I've kept myself afloat for the last couple of months with microphones. Like today, I banked a couple of £100. Thank God I can cover my mortgage this month. But ultimately, I don't want to buy any more, and I won't be buying any more. So that means that I'm at the point where it's like, okay, this is what I've got, and I need to sell it just to keep the mortgage going. But at some point, I'm going to stop, and then I'll be left with all these mics, right? As in, they'll be mine. So I'll just keep them. But I want them all to be good. So if I'm going to have a remnants of these mics that I sold a bucket load of, I don't want one of the cheap ones that I sold for £6. I want this one, which is a metal one that might actually last another 60 years. So I've bought this one. I might actually keep it. I'm especially pleased that you've just said you quite like the sound of it, because it's super cool. I'm going to keep that one. That's going to be mine. Maybe. I should really round out. We've been going a bit longer than we typically did, but we said we'd cover the Petey thing, didn't we? It's only 3 minutes. Should we just do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You got the audience waiting.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that.
If I know the exact height of the Eiffel Tower, and I take an angle to the Eiffel Tower, I can then determine my exact distance from the Eiffel Tower based on the angle I take. If I don't know the actual height of the Eiffel Tower, but I know my exact distance from the Eiffel Tower, I can then, with my angle, determine the height of the Eiffel Tower because I have the distance. So you have to have the size to know the distance, or the distance to know the size.
That was Brian's logic, and he tries to convince people that the Earth is flat. This time he's trying to use trigonometry to prove his case.
Maybe I'm mistaken, but didn't we already cover this? Is this a different video? I thought we already covered this.
Yeah, I thought we did too, but there's supposed to be a new one.
Unless this is see when it came out, Nathan, because that we did cover. He did start the last video, or the one we listened to the other day. He started that with that exact start.
Okay, so let's give it a few more seconds and just see if this is actually...
Is there a new one? Is there a new one after that? That maybe someone posted the wrong link?
No, I don't think so. I think we're getting what we got. I'll play a few more seconds because it might be something extra.
Trigonometry might sound scary, but it's all just about the relationships between the sides and angles of a right-angle triangle. So how do I know that the tangent of this angle equals this? Let's compare the...
Yeah, we've already covered this. Okay, cool. Well then, there's nothing more to do.
Hang on. Actually, if you look at some of the comments from the video that we did the last day, couple of days, I think it was Monday or something, we just covered that very start at the end of the live show. And there was some people in the comments section of the video saying, you can't call this a response to the PD video. You just attacked the very start of it and turned it off. I said, I said, check out the after show. But I've seen other comments from people then who joined in on that thread. Maybe there was other people commenting similar and saying, how do you even know he's wrong? Or how would you prove he's wrong? It's like, I don't need to do any of those things. He's just wrong. You can find out how wrong he is by Googling the term zenith angle. Do you know what I mean? And then you see how wrong the guy is. And that's all you have to do. It's a simple Google search. And you'll see that he's wrong. It's like, so I'm supposed to sit around and go through a big rigmarole, and me or you, Nathan, or someone, and show how Petey's wrong, do a big video on it. Why would I do that? He's just wrong. The guy is wrong in the story. He didn't understand what a zenith angle was, which is very, very basic geometry, let's be honest. So I don't know why he doesn't understand it, because he's excellent on GeoGebra. So I don't know and he knows maths very well. So I don't know what's going on there. But, how would you prove he's wrong? How did you prove he's wrong? He's just wrong. They don't want to accept that one of their own is just wrong. It's just wrong. Why he's wrong about something as simple as that, I don't know. Maybe it's dishonesty. Maybe it's just, I don't know, but he's wrong.
When you say he's wrong, it's not. You're almost putting it into a state where it's an argument that's being had, and it isn't, is it? When he's describing tangents, he's being a bit slippery because what's actually being measured is the surface, and it's on screen for him. So to be wrong is like, well, no. What he needs is a flat Earth to axiomatically tie to this measurement that he's got on screen that he starts with. Like all of them, they all start with a flat Earth, don't they, Brian? Like you said earlier, you summed it up quite beautifully. I might trim that out.
Yeah, you cannot reference the Earth in any way, shape, or form, whether it be for navigation, measurements, anything, without starting with a horizontal plane of reference. It's impossible to have, it's impossible to do that, reference it in any way without starting there.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to take measurements off of it.
But you can't do that. Like, it's just not possible. So,
how would you get height if you're not on a horizontal plane? How would you even measure height?
How would you do anything without the use of a horizontal plane to start with?
Exactly.
That's your baseline.
Yep, Earth is flat.
Go on, Nathan.
Now I'm just looking at this mic I've got and seeing that the switch is seemingly seized in place. But I'm going to test it and see if it sounds good. I've got a whole bunch of mics that have arrived today. This is a D190CS, and it is very pretty. I'm just going to plug it in and see if it works. I've been on camera while I've been unboxing it while you've been talking. I have to plug it into the other line though.
Yeah, but I keep it going when you're doing that. Yeah, I agree with what you said earlier, Nathan. This is a situation where it's not that I'm claiming that Casey is wrong and he's claiming he's right. No, he's just wrong. It's that simple. And it's not a situation where we have to figure out which person is right. There isn't that to figure out. You know, it's just anyone can just Google search it and see he's wrong. I don't understand like why people want to continue on the argument. The guy is wrong. The person you're trying to support is wrong. That's that. He's just wrong. It's a very simple thing to be wrong about. I don't know why he decided to die on that hill, but he decided to die on that hill. If you're going to die on some hill, at least make it something complicated, like I did. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they want the heights of things, Brian, because they have to have the heights of things. They claim to have the heights of the sun, right? They claim to have the height of the moon.
Well, they claim a they claim a distance to it, which is kind of funny. They're not even claiming a height; they're claiming a distance. You're not going to they claim, oh, it's a straight line distance, and then they'll decry us saying that distances are straight lines as an axiom. Do you know what I mean? You can bend the mile, but the mile itself is a straight line. You know.
Yeah, I think they confuse trigonometry with celestial navigation. That's what this guy does.
Well, he knows that trigonometry is not used, but then it's because we're not say not us, because we're not doing celestial navigation, but it's because they're not using trigonometry when they're measuring elevation angles for the celestial bodies that they seem to think then that means that they can deny the right angle triangle. It's like they have two lines, one horizontal line and one angle line, which would be the adjacent and the hypotenuse. But then they are denying the existence of the opposite, when the opposite is the thing you're measuring. You're measuring a vertical height above the surface of Earth, or above whatever horizontal plane of reference you have that will be parallel to mean sea level. That's what you're doing. So how can you measure? It's like me measuring the height from my floor to my ceiling, and I measure it along the wall, right between the floor and the ceiling. Then I'm denying the existence of the wall. Like, I've literally measured the height of the wall. That's what I've actually measured, because the wall has to be that height. If the wall can't be a different height, because the wall is in between the floor and the ceiling. So how can I deny the existence of the wall when that's the very thing I've measured? I've literally measured the wall in height and length, and same with the opposite. You cannot have an elevation angle without the opposite, right? An elevation is always a right angle triangle. There's always, and this is the stupid thing, they will agree that there's a 90-degree angle at the GP of the celestial body. So how can there be or directly above that GP, vertically above that GP, if you're talking about from an airplane, or if you're using an artificial horizon, right? So from a boat, you're using the horizons, right? So there might be, obviously, when you bring the line up to your eye and level it at your eye, yeah, there'll be, although I'm still a bit iffy about that, although it doesn't matter, you're parallel to mean sea level. The point being is the GP has to be directly below the end of that horizontal. Now, they agree that there's a 90-degree angle at the GP of the celestial body. So how can there be a 90-degree angle at the GP of the celestial body? Number one, the Earth be a globe, and number two, there not be an opposite, which would be the vertical. How can you have a 90-degree angle without a vertical? I mean, you can have a 90-degree angle without a horizontal and a vertical. You can just draw one on your floor. But the point is that if you're going to be talking about an elevation angle, and you're agreeing that there's going to be a 90-degree angle at the GP of the celestial body, directly above the GP, then that means that requires not just the horizontal, the adjacent, it requires also the vertical, which will be the opposite. So how can they agree to because they're agreeing to the existence of the opposite at that point, but then they'll try and deny that the opposite exists. The existence of the opposite. How can you deny the existence of the second half of that 90-degree right angle? I just don't get it. It's a massive contradiction that they're in. It's a geometric contradiction. I accept that 90 degrees, but I deny the half of it. That's what they're saying. So it's stupid, but that's what they do. They just won't accept that there's an opposite. They won't accept the right angle triangle in celestial navigation. Why they won't accept it is it's very obvious, because as soon as they accept that, it's over. The globe is done. As soon as they accept that, the globe is done. Done, over, finished. Now, it's done with elevation angles in surveying, with the angular size of a mountain and a distance. It's done with that. It's done with that. Anyway, but the point is that as soon as they accept it in celestial navigation, they're absolutely done. Because they are then accepting that the GP point is directly below that vertical, and that vertical, which is the opposite of the triangle, does exist. It's over. There's no way around it. It doesn't work for them. It only works for us. But that's why they must deny it, which shows their dishonesty. Because you have to be either thick or dishonest to deny the existence of the opposite, while also accepting the existence of a 90-degree angle at the GP or above the GP. I don't know. That's who we're dealing with.
Oh, this mic doesn't work. Oh well. Right, it's time to round out live.
Have you heard okay?
Again?
Hey, I just shared something in the main chat that might be relevant, and I was just wondering if you guys wanted to look at it. I thought it was a flat Earth proof, but it's a quick TikTok, and it's where the celestial sun is like directly 90, and it has no shadow. Just something if you wanted to see that. I don't know if you do that. I just joined, so.
Are you talking about 90 degrees to the surface of Earth?
Yeah, it's a TikTok from Hawaii where the sun is like 90 and it's casting no shadow. I put it in the main chat. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yeah, that happens. I think it's twice a year in Hawaii where the sun at solar midday, is cast no shadow. It's directly overhead, and there's no shadows. What would be interesting about that is where, away from that point, the shadows start. That's what would be interesting. Because there has to be somewhere where shadows, it doesn't have to be, but there's very likely somewhere where the shadows would start. Because if the sun is directly over Hawaii at that point, let's say directly over Honolulu, right? and there's no shadows being cast because it's directly over it, then in what distance around that area, or in what radius will the shadow start? Where will the shadow, well, I suppose you'd have to have land masses to show it, but even boats, you know what I mean? Anyway, I don't mind me speculating, but how was it claimed to be a flat earth proof? Is it because there's no shadows? Because that would be true, because because that would be true. Now that I think of it, it would be, because within their paradigm, their sun is always directly above everything. Yeah, what am I saying? I even made videos about it. I've even done videos on this. Yeah, because they're claiming parallel light rays from the sun, right? Because they're a really big, far-away sun, which means the sun would always be. Yeah, just something. Yeah, if it was a curved surface. Yeah, let's look into that. That sounds interesting. Sorry, I'm taking up my time here, speculating.
Yeah, I just thought in the comments, I left a comment saying this proves a flat Earth, and then I'm getting lit up by the Globers, but I was just wondering if you guys would approve of what I said, that proves a flat Earth.
What is your basis, or why are you saying that it proves a flat Earth?
Because it's a 90, right? So you can't have a 90. It would always be you can't have a 90 unless it's flat, baseline.
Well, yeah, but within their paradigm, what creates the shadows is not the sunlight. Well, it's the sunlight, but it's the curvature creates the shadows within their paradigm. So it's not the position of the sun so much. The sun is always in the same position. It's us that are rotating and moving around the sun. So within their paradigm, what creates the shadows is the curvature. And that's why their claim, that's the reason for this, them having a claim of a very big, very far away sun, is to claim parallel light rays. That shadows, but it only works in 2 dimensions for them. That thing where it doesn't work 3-dimensionally. It only works in 2 dimensions. One of the ways you could use it is, and I've used it, is that in the evening time, the shadows do diverge because the sun has moved away from that location. But if the Earth was a globe and we had a very big faraway sun, and we were getting parallel sun rays from the parallel light rays from that sun, then in the evening time, the shadows cannot be appearing to diverge. They must stay parallel at all times. They can't diverge under those circumstances. So that's
You have subverted that gentleman's argument, Mr. Brian.
Yeah, because what he's saying is a 90, but what I'm saying is, yes, it is a 90. What would be how it works? It is a 90, but it's always directly above the globe for them, or directly pointing at the globe for them. If you understand what I mean, it comes back to where they get their shadows from. It's kind of, yeah. I don't mean to take thunder away from it. It's just that I just would want it. I just would want it to be like. I'd have to show what I mean by a diagram. I'd say to show what I'm talking about. I've kind of addressed this already, but not in that way. Not the sitting. How will I explain it? I've addressed this already. That what they're claiming concerning their shadows only works in 2 dimensions. It won't work in 3 dimensions. That's why I brought in, let's say, late in the evening, why the shadows all diverge late in the evening. It's because the sun is moving away, not because we're rotating away, because within their paradigm, us rotating away will not give us divergent shadows because we have parallel sun rays that are always parallel. So the length of the shadows would change, but they will not diverge. Why do they diverge in the evening time? They diverge because we're on a flat plane with a sun that's moving around us, not we're on a globe that's moving around the sun. That's really big.
Yeah, well, the concept of parallel requires that you have 2 lines that are equidistant from each other and straight. They don't got no straight to be talking about.
Well, this is why I addressed their nonsense about because every time they talk about these parallel sun rays, they show you a two-dimensional diagram, and in a two-dimensional diagram, they can make a couple of shadows work, right? The best example is Eratosthenes, because that's where this claim of a very big and faraway sun came from. Because they required a big and faraway sun to give Eratosthenes the parallel sun rays. Because as he said, well, according to the supposed history, if the sun is small and local, then the Earth is flat. And he's only said that because it means that that's the only way, like because the shadows that bunk up being a globe. He needed the shadows to work for a globe, and that required a big and faraway sun and parallel light rays. But that means that in the evening time, the shadows can change in length, but they cannot diverge. They cannot diverge, but they do. The shadows diverge in the evening time because the Earth is flat. That's the only way that the shadows can diverge, is if the sun is moving and we're stationary and the Earth is flat and not curved.
Right, I'm going to round out this live show. So with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. But if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow.
I thought it was a good point the kid brought up.
Well, somebody's got to go in Discord and pull out the video, and we'll review it in the after show, maybe.
No, it is a good point. It's just that it needs a bit of meat on those bones, as QE would say. Like, if to say why it proves it, show why it proves it, kind of thing. Even though he's correct, you have to add in a bit more to prove the point.
Well, as a matter of fact, for it to be 90 degrees, it needed a baseline. The baseline of that shadow is the Earth. It's kind of is what it is,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but immediately it brings me to referencing their position.
It's a mess to be now.
Yeah, and in their position, that should be something that's happening regular. If you understand what I mean. Like, if you think about it.
The surface is happening regular in their paradigm?
In their paradigm, because they're claiming parallel sun rays that's covering the whole further. Like, the sun in their paradigm is 860,000 miles in diameter. So that at all times, they're claiming to be getting these parallel sun rays hitting the globe. So that should be happening far more often. What's seen in Hawaii twice a year when the sun is passing over that point or whatever, that should be happening regular every day somewhere if we were living on a globe, based off of what they're trying to, based off of their claims concerning it. That shouldn't be just something that's
I thought in their paradigm
witnessed.
it should be happening never. There's the surface is always.
I would say it should be happening every day somewhere in their paradigm. Now, I'm open to being corrected on that, but I would say in their paradigm, because they're talking about parallel sun rays, they should be happening somewhere every day, that effect. It shouldn't just be something that we see in Hawaii twice a year.
Well, all right, if we're going to do the whole begging the question of a ball, right, we can't talk about 90 to the surface. So we're just going to say that between the Tropic of Capricorn and Cancer, there should be the phenomenon of the shadows disappearing at least once a year everywhere on Earth.
Well, it's somewhere every day, because I mean, there's a lot of land in between. If you take, let's say, the globe and you go between Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, there's a lot of land around that band. In Africa, in Australia, South America, there's a load of places, you know what I mean? You have southern United States, I think, places like that where you should see this phenomenon. because of what they're claiming. You should see this on every day somewhere. Do you know what I mean? But we don't see it. We see it over Hawaii twice twice a year, I think, because it's directly over Hawaii. I think it's twice, or at least once a year. But we see it. We definitely see it, and that should be something that should be happening all the time.
So the thing is, I can take a ball and an obstruction, right, and hold it out from that ball and cause a shadow on the ball, right? I can do that out, in, out, in. But to be above, they can't have that.
Yeah, but I'm not using I'm not using horizontal or 90 for them or above. I'm not referencing any of that. I'm purely referencing their claim when I'm speaking about it. And this is what I'm saying. It's like, you know what?
What's their claim then? I mean, like, just lay their claim out.
Their claim is that we're on a rotating sphere that's making an offset elliptical orbit of a very big central sun, or offset central sun. And that sun, because it's so big, is giving us parallel light rays. And those parallel light rays, right, are what form them and the curved surface we're on, of the globe we're on, supposedly, is what gives us the shadows we see in reality. That's their claim.
And they show that how?
They don't. They just claim there's a very big faraway sun. And they claim they measure the distance to it, which they didn't. This is the thing. They don't show any of these things. Right? And the reason they're even speaking about shadows is because Eratosthenes had to use an elevation angle with a 500-mile long horizontal adjacent to it when he measured his angle to the sun. And then his zenith angle was 7.24 degrees. And that's why it's claimed he measured for a 500-mile distance between Alexandria and Cyan, or well in Cyan. So the whole thing is, the whole shadow argument when it comes to the globe has always been and always will be an attempted red herring away from the actual measurement that proves the Earth is a horizontal plane. That proves it outright. So it's a movement away from that. And then that's why he has to add in the caveat of, that's why in the Eratosthenes stories, he adds in the caveat of, if the sun is close and is small and local, then the Earth is flat. But if it's very big and far away, then it can be a globe of a radius 395 miles. Do you know what I mean? That's what it is. They're taking you away from the measurement, and they want you to argue about shadows. The shadows that kill them anyway, because I've shown that. But the point is that the whole point of the argument about the shadows is you're then not talking about the measurement. It's always been the way with them.
Yeah, because to get the what you claim is parallel, you'd have to measure it to say it's parallel. You can't just state it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but see, you can have parallel shadows during the day, but in the evening time, those shadows will lengthen out and they'll diverge. Within their claim, if we just address our shadows and avoid the elevation angle part, within their claim, there is no way for those shadows to diverge at any point. They would have to say, let's say there's a row of trees along a road. The shadows from those trees, right, and they're all spaced, you know the way when trees are laid out and they're spaced equally apart. Let's say there could be 25 foot between each tree and it's going along for a mile or something along the road, right? Or a series of poles along the road, you know, with reflective things on them or something like that, you know, something like that. Or a gate or whatever. And you're seeing these parallel shadows, right? And the ballers go, parallel shadows, that means parallel light rays, when they don't understand the relationship. No, if there's parallel light rays and we're on a globe, in the evening time, those shadows cannot diverge. They can lengthen, but they can't diverge. But in the evening time, they do lengthen and diverge. They can't do that if we were on a globe with parallel sun rays. That can't happen. They can only lengthen, they can't diverge. All shadows must always be parallel at that point. Do you know what I mean? Because the light rays are claimed to be parallel. And that's how we're getting the shadows in the first place. You know what I mean? Because of them parallel light rays from the sun and our globe surface BS that they try to push. So that's why I'm saying, when I say it only works for them when they try to show it in a two-dimensional diagram. That's why every time you research Eratosthenes now and go to the diagram, the images, and you'll see one diagram that show a flat plane with a sun that's close and local, and it will have the rays from it will be diverging and creating shadows along a flat plane. And you see another diagram where you'll have the rays from the sun, this really big sun, where the rays are all parallel. They are diverging within their paradigm, but they haven't. The sun, the globe Earth is too close to the sun, so the divergence is so small, it's not even negligible. So what you know what I mean? So basically, they have to claim mathematically parallel light rays at that point, and that means that gives us our claim shadows. But every one of those diagrams will have every one of them will reference a globe, but it'll be a two-dimensional diagram. You'll never have at any time, any of these claimed diagrams or any of these claimed ballers addressing the diverging shadows in the evening time that 4 hours previous were parallel. That cannot happen cannot happen within their story.
You know, the reason they're probably showing the flat plane in their argument is because they need to steal the measurements to assert it's parallel, to have an argument to say if this then that. So it's like hijacking the measurements to assert there's parallel light causing these shadows to be equidistant apart.
Well, it's not even that. What they're actually doing is they're using the shadow, when it comes to Eratosthenes, they're using the shadows as a red herring away from the measurement. So they make the measurement, and then Eratosthenes supposedly says, well, the Earth could be flat, unless the sun is really big and far away, then we could be on a globe. And then he shows mathematically in 2 dimensions how it would work, right? Not in 3 dimensions, and in reality, because you will have, as I said earlier, you will have parallel shadows at certain times in the day, right? If you have a row of trees that are in a line, you will have the shadows from them. If you see it overhead, they'll be parallel, right? You can see these online, there's loads of you can see it yourself, with just even a gate with bars in it, the shadows be parallel. But when the sun moves away in the evening time, those parallel shadows are suddenly diverging, because the sun is not a really big thing at 93 million miles away, and we're on a globe. It's because we're on a flat plane, and the sun, whatever it is, right, is moving over us and giving us shadows, because the light that we're receiving from it is divergent. By the time we experience the divergence. What their claim is that the light from their sun is diverging, but we just don't experience that divergence because the globe Earth is so close to their sun. It's a lot of nonsense, but it's a very cloaked way of avoiding the measurement. That's all it is.
It's just a lot of thievery, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, as we were speaking about earlier, for every time they reference the Earth, whether it be for navigation or measurement, or whatever, travel, it's always they have to start with a horizontal plane of reference. They have to start there. And as John has pointed out in the past, as I said, for anything heliocentric, like orbits, they must start with a horizontal plane of reference. Even like everything, GPS, its starting point is a horizontal plane of reference for every single thing. When they want to turn that into something on a globe, they must start with an angle, right? An all-gas angle. So they must use azimuth and elevation as a starting point for all GPS claims. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what's happening, right? We are on a flat plane. That's why they have to, there's no way to reference the Earth in any way without starting with a horizontal plane of reference. There's no way out of it. Like,
Right.
what do you have to say about this, Nathan?
Starting
Earth is
points.
measured flat.
Starting points flat. Yeah, that's my whole 2024 rhetoric.
You know, there's so many things. I'll give you another thing, and I made a video about this as well, concerning the shadows. Like, they're BS about their parallel sun rays. There is different size shadows, right, claimed during solar eclipses, right? So one shadow during a total solar eclipse, see, they're claiming that the thing that's blocking the sun is the moon, right? The new moon that we never see. Now, besides the fact that I've shown in the past that there is actually no evidence for this that can be found, and I've actually shown that what is going in front of the sun, at least in 2017, didn't match the moon. Now, I'm not saying it isn't the new moon. I'm just saying I've seen no evidence to support that it is. I've actually seen evidence to the contrary. Either way, if let's just go within their paradigm and say that it is the new moon that's blocking the sun for a total solar eclipse. The past three total solar eclipses that have happened, right? Let's say the past 2 or 3 that's happened across America. The claimed shadow diameter from what would be what's supposed to be the moon, right, within their paradigm, is different each time. So one time it could be 70 miles in diameter, another time it could be 120 miles in diameter. I think it was the last two, for the last 2 total solar eclipses across America. Now, it doesn't matter, right, within their paradigm. Like, what they're saying is the reason for these different size shadows is because of the different approximate distance to the moon in relation to the Earth, right? And that's fine, but that only works. This changing in shadow size only works for a flat horizontal plane of reference. Because if we were on a globe, it doesn't matter at what distance the moon is away from that globe, the shadow must be exactly the same because we're receiving parallel light rays from the sun. So it's impossible for that shadow to change in size from solar eclipse to solar eclipse. Yes, it is always a different, or it does change in size. But it can't if we have supposed parallel light rays from the sun and we were on a globe. It cannot. That shadow from the moon that they're claiming is blocking the sun must be equal every time. It doesn't matter what the approximate distance to that moon is away from the surface of the Earth. It makes no difference whether the moon is 10 miles away or 10,000 miles away or whatever. It makes no difference. The shadow has to be equal in size because you're talking about parallel light rays. So there's no way for that moon at any point to cast a shadow that will be different in size between any 2 solar eclipses. It must be always exactly equal the actual diameter of the moon that they're claiming, which is, I think, is about 2,000 miles. Is it 2,000 or 1,000 miles? I think it is around 1,000 miles in diameter or something. They say that their moon is. Can't remember exactly. That would mean that the shadow would have to be exactly 1,000 miles every single time. But it's not. It's nowhere near that, and it's different each time. Go on, sorry.
Refraction.
Well, no, nothing does it. Nothing will do it. There is no even excuse. There's nothing. Or out of that, there is no way out of it. Because it's just taking their exact paradigm and giving it to them on a platter, and then showing them how it doesn't match reality. Refraction won't do it because we're talking about shadows. Nothing will do it.
Oh, I got to find another keyword.
But wouldn't also, if the shadow is showing on a curved surface, would it never be spherical in shape? It would always be like an oblong ellipse or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It would be. It would, like, I mean, what it would actually look like as a shadow may not be exactly like a flat shadow. But the point is that it would always have to be exactly the same and exactly the same in width.
You're saying it would elongate as it goes around the curve. It's a bit like when you look at the reflection of the sun on the flat water. If it was curved, it would elongate and sort of taper out. No, yes.
Or it's just processing it.
Well, yeah. If you've got a circle with parallel light rays or close light rays or whatever on a flat surface, it will be the shadow will be a circle. It'll match the object that's being lit. And if you're showing that shadow on a curved surface, then it will be, depending on the angle that it's hitting the curved surface, it'll be, unless it's hitting the curved surface exactly perpendicular, which we know that's not perpendicular, but straight on, then yes, I assume the shadow would be a circle shape, but it would be much elongated, and it would taper off towards the ends, towards the edges. But the point is that whenever they show us their illustrations of the shadow going across the Earth, it's always as if the Earth is flat and the circle is a perfect circle, whatever size they say it is. It's always a perfect circle.
Yeah, but you see, it is going to be pretty much a perfect circle for them. Now, it will be obviously over a curved surface. It's going to be basically a shadow, a perfect circle laid over a bulge. But because they're claiming parallel light rays, this is the point, you see. That shadow can never change, regardless of the claimed approximate distance to the moon at that particular time within their paradigm. So it doesn't matter if the moon is what position in distance or what position the moon is in within their offset elliptical orbit of their globe Earth. The point being, for that solar eclipse, each time, right? It doesn't matter if the moon is closest to their globe at that time or furthest away within their orbit. At that solar eclipse, each time, it has to be exactly 1,000 miles across. Exactly. Now, obviously, you'd have to measure it as an arc. But the point is, it wouldn't matter what way you want to measure it. It can never be different. It must be exactly the same within their paradigm. But in reality, that's not what happens. In reality, the shadow we see is based off of divergent light, and it changes because of the approximation of what's the word I'm looking for? Where the height the moon is off of the Earth at that time, whatever the bloody hell the moon is. So that's the reason why you have maybe 70 miles wide of a shadow in one solar eclipse, and then the next one is 120 miles wide. What's the difference? The difference is the approximate I keep saying approximation, which is not the word I'm looking for. The position of the moon in its elevated height above the Earth. The point is that solar eclipses only prove a flat Earth. They don't prove a globe in any way, shape, or form.
I've got another mic that doesn't work. I think I'm just going to auction it rather than burden Craig with it.
I know we're friends, but there has to come a point when you stop telling us about mics not working.
When they're all sold.
I position those mics to get a mention in the book, Craig.
I'm going to round out for realsies. Right, a huge,
You
massive...
know what it sounds like, Nate?
What?
It sounds like you're just coming in out of nowhere and going, I text her, but she didn't text me back yet. That's what it sounds like to us. It's like, she never texts me back, and I text them. What can you do? That's what we're here. It doesn't matter if it's microphones. That's what the tone we're getting off it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'm sorry about that, Brian. But I'm going to round out on that note. So, huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.